pairing.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Ngozi Talk Show family. It's Nomsa here at Ngozi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, we have Shireen Lovegrove and Carol Ann Cooper. How are you, ladies?
Very well, thank you. And yourself?
Awesome. I am very well, thank you.
Good.
So, our topic today is how harnessing the power of language builds stronger relationship. So language plays a fundamental role in building and strengthening relationships. So on this video today, we're going to share with you how harnessing the power of language can contribute to more meaningful and lasting connection. Carol Ann, you chose this topic. Would you please like to share with our audience what was the motivation behind the topic, or was something, or is there anything that is going on in your life?
Yeah, I was on an accountability Zoom call on Sunday evening, and the topic there was about harnessing the power of language for personal development. And I just loved that phrase. So I just thought, oh, let's have a look how, in terms of relationships, how does harnessing the power of language help with relationships? And so I just thought it'd be a great topic to explore. And I just love that phrase, as the power of language, harnessing it.
Yeah.
Again, it's words, it's using words. It's so powerful. And so if we can understand language and how it can be used in a really powerful way, and language isn't just about words, there's other things as well. So we can explore that. What else is there? Because a lot of people just think, oh, it's words. Well, it's not just words. There's a lot about words, and how they're used, but there's other things as well. So what did you see when you saw the topic, Shireen?
Oh, it sent me wild. It sent me wild. Hello, everybody. It really is. Well, I know, Carol Ann, you and I love words anyway, but it was really interesting in what I kind of went to first, which was this idea that even as a baby, we are the first thing we try and do is communicate, isn't it? And so babies, if you listen to them, they babble, 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 babble all the time. And we think, oh, well, yeah, that's baby talk. But those babies are learning to be able to listen to sound, to make a sense that the sound has got meaning, right? And that meaning will attract attention in some way to someone else. So they learn after a while how to use that sound and direct it towards a person in order to have their needs met in some way. So language sounds to me so very important in recognizing there's this intrinsic drive within all of us to communicate on some level, to communicate ourselves and to be heard and understood. I mean, that's something that is for me the key thing that keeps jumping up for me. And then I kind of always think about how words make worlds. And in the Bible, so I think it's St. John, which is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made man. So the world was made man. So you've got the Word coming first, which is really, in a way, talking about a form of consciousness that is happening, that then creates the worlds. The words create the worlds, which then creates the physicality of things. So I kind of could see there are a lot of things, and you were talking, Carol Ann, which was really about the idea that language is not just about language, but there are things within the words, right? Intentions within the words, information within those words. And that may require that we have different antenna to receive those words in a different way. And we have to learn to hone those, particularly if we want to not be misunderstood and we want to clearly communicate. Yeah, so that's where I was with my musings this morning, the moment, straight away, oh, I've got to talk this morning. Oh, right, let me think about this. And there it was. I sort of kind of went there. What's your thoughts there, Nomsa?
Are you muted? You're muted.
Sorry, I was sharing the videos. I was on Facebook. So I like the term that you've used, the scriptures that in the beginning, which is John 1 verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was God. So it means language, the word, the language. So meaning that the word, the language is very, very important to get clarity. And Carol Annie, thank you so much for choosing this topic, because I think it is a very, very important topic as well. And effective communication is very, very important. You know, when children are speaking, we get so excited. We want to hear because they're saying their first words. We get so excited. We really want to get clarity so we can go and tell our friends, oh, she spoke or he spoke. His first word was mommy or daddy, or all these things. Kayla started talking. My youngest started talking when she was 9. I nearly dropped her on the floor. Yeah, I'm carrying this little baby. And then she starts talking. I was like, okay, it made me jump. I was like, honestly, yeah, she scared me because she was like 9 months. She was 8 months and a half, something there. And I nearly dropped her when she started talking. But yeah. Yeah, so we get so excited when the children, but when we become adult, we don't see the importance of communications in a relationship, how important it is. And that's why so many relationships, they cannot stand because of lack of communication. We don't see how important that is. So I'm hoping that the audience will get some nuggets and some take home and have a clarity of clear, so they can reduce the misunderstanding and build trust when people express their thoughts and feelings clearly. Over to you, ladies.
And what you're saying about effective communication, that's one aspect of harnessing the power of language, being able to express yourself clearly and your thoughts and your feelings, and to be able to say exactly what is going on for you so that the other person actually gets it. And realizing actually, well, do they or don't they get it? Because then you need to adjust how you're saying it or what you're saying. But having a real clear understanding of your thoughts and your feelings and being able to put them in words is really one aspect of harnessing that power of language, because you can then get through and your message can get through. And it's about also paying attention to what that other person is saying and really clear on what is it they're saying and responding thoughtfully rather than just straight back at them, just responding or replying because you've been thinking about it in your head. So there's a dance actually in conversation, in communication, and it's about using it in such a way that you actually the other person can relate to you, can understand. There's a compassion that comes in, and it creates bridges rather than barriers, so that what you were saying, Nomsa, yeah, effective communication is one aspect of harnessing the power of language. And I love what you were saying, Shireen, about different antennae with words. It is somebody will use a word in one way and someone's got another filter on and they'll hear it and take it differently. And this is where being really open and listening to what other people are saying or how they're saying it, you understand, well, where they've gone with your communication and what you've been attempting to say. And that's something that I've become much more comfortable with. In the beginning, for most of my life, it was sort of, that's what made it work, because it was like, no, that's not what I meant. Or I felt blocked in some way, so I couldn't carry on what I was saying, and I would just shut up. So over time, I just don't bother. You just sort of say what you say and that's it. But it's more when you're really heard and listened to, or you can take the power in terms of listening to what that person is saying and not making them wrong, and going, okay, they're only trying to understand what you're saying, and they're attempting to put it into their frame or realm of the world, their perspective. And once you can get that, then you can bring it back. You can say, okay, I heard you to say that, but that's not what I meant. This is what I meant. And this is where understanding words and being able to explain them and use other words that someone else would then understand, that's where the power is, because then you get, oh, right, yes. And there's this togetherness that happens. And this is what it is about, building stronger relationships. So I love that. And I love what you said about that intrinsic
the intrinsic drive.
Intrinsic. Yeah, I've written intrinsic. It's intrinsic.
The intrinsic drive.
Drive to communicate, be heard and understood. And I think, and that is something that I know I've worked with over the years. My sister has as well, and there's a lot of other people as well that have this. They don't feel heard and they don't feel understood. And it goes back to childhood, and that runs. And even if they are understood or heard, they're still running that. So there's an element of they haven't heard that they've been heard, because that inner child is still running that. And yet it's really important right from an early age to get that communication right and understanding what that babble talk is about, because baby is communicating. And it is, once you can understand them and talk back or communicate back and give them what they want, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, it requires some active learning, doesn't it?
It does. Yes. Yeah. And also willing to make mistakes and realize, well, okay, that's not what they wanted, and what is it they want, until you actually get there, and it is a learning, definitely learning. There's no manual.
No. Yeah. I love, what's really what seems key for me here, and what you're really talking about, is the capacity to pivot, right? So when something happens, you see, I probably, let's frame it in the sense that we have different, you probably have heard that there is, for our readers, our listeners, that most communication is nonverbal. Most of it. So we have the language of tears. We have the language of the heart. We have the language of the soul. We have the language of the body. And we have the language of the mind. And so we have a lot of languages that we've got to interpret, right? And some people will have different languages that they prefer and they will use. And very often when we're stuck and we haven't had the capacity to learn a very big, wide vocabulary, then when things go wrong, we don't have the capacity to be able to say the things that we want to say, because we're so hurt and our heart is in such pain, right? So there's really about learning how to, when we're in these kind of moments, how do we pivot, and what will give us the skills to pivot? So, for example, if you find that words, you get lost for words, then there may need to be a greater learning for the kinds of words you need to learn, right? So that you can come back and say, you were talking about, Carol Ann, about moving into someone's world, right? In order to say something and come back with another idea in the hope to meet them in some way, to pivot, we need to be able to have language enough language to be able to supply it to that person, right? So that they then go, you're matching. we know that if I say, I see you, or I hear you, or I feel you, then it's easier if we come back to that person and speak in the language of I see, or I hear, or I feel, and then bring them towards your seeing, right? So we have to move into their world first before we can move into ours. And we have to have the capacity to do that. And part of that is really learning the skills of what each of these languages need, so that we then become the master of that. And I think it's really important. And you know, just going back, there's this notion of love languages, which we talk about in relationships. Love, the 5 love languages are so important in how we give and how we reciprocate in our love for people, right? Because we will often mismatch that kind of love. Someone will think, it's great for me to just bring you flowers, but I don't tidy my room. Well, if you want love to go out the door, it's going to be a little bit challenging, right? You want people to kind of know that your preferred thing, or maybe that you want people to do things in a particular way, rather than the flowers, because the flowers are easy to get, right? So we have beliefs around that. So it's really important to look at our love languages, our preferences for how we want to receive things, and get to know that in relationships for how others want to receive, so that you can then match that language in order to help them and also to help you, right? You've got to give the people clear instructions on how they need to love you. Otherwise, I remember my partner, he never hugged. He wouldn't hug me in front of his mother, or he wouldn't. And I said to him, this is a no dealer. If you come into the house, you come and find me and you give me a kiss and say hi, right? You come into the house and if you sit down next to me, I want you in front of whoever's there, I don't care who it is, to put your arm around me, or at least touch me and let me know that, hey, we've got this connection. He found that really challenging. But now, oh my goodness, I have to kind of push him away.
Oh, bless him.
But it's so lovely. It's so lovely because that was definitely heard, and it was definitely a willingness to go, okay, I have to put myself out here. I have to pivot. I have to change who I am a little bit in order to help this person and make her feel safe and loved, right? So there are these different things. That wasn't very hard for him, I must admit. After a little while, he got a bit easy. But it's, I think if we don't tell people what we need, particularly as I didn't get that affection, I needed it and I wanted it, right?
Right.
So, yeah, and Nomsa, how does that feel? I know that I spoke a bit long.
I love it, Shireen, communicating your want, your desires to your spouse. I think is very, very important, because some people, they will be like, when I'm speaking to my clients, they will tell me, and they'll be like, or maybe friends or family, I'll be like, does your spouse actually know this is what you want? And like, no, he should know. I was like, no, he can't. He's no psychic. He cannot know. You got to explain to him. And they're like, but he's got to understand this is what I expect from him. I'm like, no. It does not how it works. Everyone is different. The people, but my ex was this, my ex was that. But you have to explain your expectations. And also studying this positive intelligence thing is making me realize this is what people do. Basically, they judge, because that's why they call it positive, because everything, like he says, find something good about every conversation. And it says to be a genius or in the business, if somebody brings the idea, don't dismiss it. Find something good in it. And when you do find something good in it, that's when the ideas are are born. Ideas are not born when somebody proposes something. And that person that is proposing something, if you dismiss them straight away, they might have something big. It might be something big in that idea. So give it a chance. Find something. There must be a word where you can use to find a gift of that from that conversation. So it's making me rethink.
Oh, definitely.
Honestly, it's making me rethink about everything. I find myself when Martin says something, I'm like, if he says something negative, I have to give myself a tap and say, don't say anything. Find something positive about this and just keep going. So I don't, but before I have lots to say, but now. So
Yeah.
I think
I
it's
like,
something about that, which is about everything that 10% within it is valuable.
yeah,
So always come back with what it is that you like about that 10% when you frame the next bit. So that, what I like was that idea, and this gives me this idea. I think that's the key thing, because that generates an openness, doesn't it? It's not shutting them off. Yeah.
That's acknowledging
Mm.
what they've said, and it shows you've really listened to it and not pushed it away. And that again is the power of language, because you're listening to them and you're acknowledging it. So in that's another key aspect, is acknowledging what's somebody has done or what they said, and just being able to give it back to them, but move it on as well and say what ideas. But also, if you can understand if someone said something that you haven't quite, and it's impacted you in a way, it could be in a negative way or even a positive way, a happy way or a sad way. It's having the language to be able to express that in a way that doesn't make them wrong. It's your owning how you're feeling. So it's being able to say, I've heard you say this and I'm feeling whatever the emotion is that you're feeling. So again, it's having a great vocabulary of emotions and words to express, to be able to explain those emotions, and then actually owning it and saying, well, this is how it's making me feel. And if it's a way of feeling that you're not comfortable with, then say, well, I would prefer to feel differently, and I can work on that. Or can we rephrase this, or make that request? And I love what you were saying, Shireen, about you knew what you wanted and you made that request, but it wasn't in a way that made them wrong, because it wasn't like, well, you never do this for me, you don't do that. It's like, can you do this for me? And that's the power of language. It is making that request so someone really understands, but also creating that boundary. This is this is a deal breaker for me. I love that phrase that you said. So again, it's really understanding yourself, but it's acknowledging how things make you feel. So it's not brushed away, or it's not pushed down, because if you don't express how you're feeling, then this is where it gets shut down, it gets trapped inside, and this is where illness and stress and other ailments come through. But also it creates that distance between you and the other person. So again, it's that what we're talking about is how this builds stronger relationships. It's about bringing you together, and so being able to express how you're feeling and owning it and working with it, and then it just frees things up to move forward. So I love that. You need to tell people what you want. Love it. And that was something I never really did when we were married. I don't think I knew. Well, I knew I didn't know what I was feeling, but I knew also that times I was uncomfortable, but I didn't seem to be able to make a stand, just say, well, no. this is how I'm feeling, because I couldn't really put words to it.
Mm.
So now, having trained in educational kinesiology, but also touch for health and the journey work, that's helped me to really get in touch with my feelings, my emotions, what's going on in my body, and be able to express it and work with it and be with it. And that has been such a powerful shift for me. So that, and again, that really helps when you're connecting with somebody, because I can just stand and say, well, no, this is how I'm feeling. And be calm about it rather than, you know, because that doesn't help. Yeah. So find something good in every conversation, Nomsa. I like that.
Yeah.
It is that finding something good, something positive that you can, and it comes back to what I said about acknowledging. Yeah. Yeah. It's that silver lining. There's always a silver lining. You never know what you might miss. So listen carefully. And it is listening to what is said, but also what isn't said. That again is the power of language and harnessing it, what isn't said. And there is a really powerful one. That's something I often say, okay, so I'm feeling to, and it's listen to what isn't said. Again, as you were saying, Shreen, it depends what you are, whether you're more a visual or auditory kinesthetic person. So even though I'm sort of listening in, I'm feeling in for me, because I'm more that kinesthetic, and something will come through. All of a sudden I find myself saying something. I say, oh, how did you know that? Like it just comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about the field, which I will, which maybe I'll speak about a little bit in a bit. But what I want to do, I want to apologize because Nomsa, I cut you off. Sorry, when you were talking about the zipping your mouth. So I wanted to come back to that because you were in the middle of something. So I wanted to just come back there really and you finish before I go into the other.
Are you muted again?
I was already finished, Shereen.
Oh, were you?
She was.
I just knew that we had kind of tailed on and I thought, oh no, I hadn't really heard the rest of it. So I apologize for that.
Yeah, I think Carol Ann and Shireen, you guys have touched a very important thing, that active listening is very, very important, because life is not about speaking, it's also about listening, and it involves like fully concentrating and really understanding, responding, and then remembering what is being said, like what Carol Ann was saying. It shows a respect and value for the other person's perspective as well in that conversation. So it's very, very important. But some nowadays, the youngsters, they like you will hear them complaining that, my spouse doesn't get me, or my mom does not get me, or this one does not get me. I was talking to my mom on last week, but when I was trying to make a conversation with her, she misunderstood what I was saying, but I had to send a voicemail step by step so that she can understand what I was saying. At that moment, she got it straight away, what I was saying. And I could see her reply that she was really happy. She was free. She could understand what I was saying. And all these things, because for me, I was raised by my grandparents and my parents. So they taught me not to leave things unsaid. So sometimes I ask questions to my parents, or sometimes I tell my parents how much I love them. So I was telling my mom how much I love her, and I was putting everything like expressing, because if anything happens to her, she needs to die happy knowing that my children loves me. So I was like telling her this. So she misunderstood some of the part, so I had to explain, but I had to realize that she came back and she understood what I was saying and stuff. So sometimes it's very, very important. not to go in a judge mode and judging people. Judge said you've done the intelligence thing where people just go to judging straight away, and it's actually when he was like teaching, I stopped and I paused. I had to pause the video, and I was like, "Did he just say that?" So I was like, we spend our lives judging each other. We never ever really listen to when somebody brings the conversation, we judge that conversation instead of finding, because some people don't know how to put the message across. So if anyone that is listening, guys, sometimes it's nice to actually listen to what is being said and stuff like that, because when people judge, it can leave the family. Because like when I went homeless, but then I thought it was all about me. When I moved in with my father-in-law, I saw the process unfolding. My father-in-law had lots of money in his bank account, but he had these friends that he was with. So all of a sudden, I hear the Holy Spirit saying, take over his finances. I was like, what now? Take over his finances. So I took over the finances and everything, and the password changed everything. But it wasn't later, like after 6 months, when I met my father-in-law and his friends. And his friends, my father-in-law was in the bank with me, and then his friends, they knew how much he had in his bank account, like exactly the amount. And they was talking about the password and stuff. And I was like, so that's why I went to homeless. I thought it was all about me. It was never about me. I was there to save his life, honestly. But when I tried to tell his family that this is what I've realized, they didn't get the message. I could feel one of his children saying, with you, there's always so much drama. Now you're talking about the man and his friend, but and the Holy Spirit is saying, no, sir, you've done your bit. Let them judge you. Don't explain no more. You've done your work. Now move on. So when he was teaching Sebastian, I was like, oh my God, we are judging each other. We never ever wanted. So that's why, Shireen, now when my children speak, I have to go in a silence mode and like observe the message, what is being said, without me judging. And then when Martin speaks, I have to observe the message. But before, I'll be quickly observe the message and then I will speak. But now I'm not going into a judging mode. I have to find something positive, and then just take it from there. And now I got to an understanding also when my pastors preach, they say when there is an argument between a spouse and you, women go quiet. So I couldn't get it until positive psychology, I'm linking together, go quiet, observe the thing, what is being said without judging, without making it wrong, like Carol Ann always say. Which is hard.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, it can be hard, and it's as hard as you want to make it.
Yeah.
I always say, it's again, listen to your words. It's can be hard, but I love what you're saying about observe the message.
Yeah.
Observe the message, so that there's no judgment going on in your head. You are listening. And for other people that think, oh, how do you observe? You're listening. Just listen to the message. Feel the message. You're an observer of it rather than being caught up in it and reacting to it and thinking, well, what am I going to say? So that's being an observer of it. And that's what you can do with your own emotions. You can become that observer of what's going on for you, how you react, how is it impacting you, rather than being taken over by it. It's that becoming an observer. And it is hard in the beginning. And the more you do it and the more consciously you do it, the easier it becomes. And it's such a great place to be able to get to, you know. So what you were going to say something, Shireen?
Yeah, I was just yeah, thank you.
We're coming back again, yeah.
I was kind of just listening and just yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I suppose what I was also thinking about before I go into the idea of this kind of quantum listening was the concept is we are, because of our nature, right? We learn very fast, and part of fast learning is heuristic learning. So learning, that means that we actually follow a kind of pattern, but we also predict. We're a very good predictor most of the time. We're actually pretty good at predicting what someone is going to say. How many times have we tried to finish someone's sentence, you know, because we're now impatient. We want to finish the sentence. Come on. And then my partner will often say, that wasn't what I was going to say. And then I go, what? But we are very good most of the time. We will anticipate, because that is something, because we kind of are trying to fit into someone's world, and we often do get it wrong. We often get it right. But I think we must never rely on that, right? We must never rely on replying when someone else is giving us information. We need to wait to the very end and let it come into our body. Wait, let it kind of filter, almost like let it filter into our body so that we can hear all of that message on all of the planes. So yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking about when you were saying zip it up and be quiet. Really, it's about just waiting, because if we kind of just want to find the 10% yet, what we need to do is wait till we've heard the message, get the 10%, go, okay, I want to reply to this, but I need to reply in a particular way. I need to find what I like about this. I don't really like the whole thing, but I like this bit. So I think we can only do that when we have when the information is filtered within us and we've got it and we've received it fully. And I think that when you do that, all of a sudden we can begin to generate, we get a sense of everything is about frequency on some level. And what we are, if we think about our cell and we think about epigenetics, we are really this huge antenna. Every cell within our body is an antenna. Every cell in our body is affected by the energetic field that sits around it. So when we have thoughts, those thoughts are thoughts that have basically culminated down, and they then have created a field. And that field then has the direct effect of affecting our DNA. So our DNA can actually do without a nucleus. Basically, our DNA will work without, it just won't replicate, right? It won't do any of that sort of thing. But our DNA will still live. But what it is in the sense of a cell, when I talk about a cell will do without a nucleus, what it means is that our DNA is there for the purpose of changing things in the cell. So, but the change can only come from something that's external to it. It comes in, it feeds in, then the DNA changes, and then it pushes the message out. Now, if we think about communication, if we think about language, if we think about a child that's having to learn, they got to hear they got to hear the sounds first to know that the sounds probably have meaning eventually, right? So they hear the sounds outside, and they start to make sense. Let's think of the word sense of our body. They get a sense that this means something. They get a felt feeling for what it is. So they're receiving on many levels. And often when we ask a question or we direct a question at someone, if you just wait and ask, where did that land? You might find that a lot of times that things hit our stomach. They often hit our chest. They often even hit us really when we say, oh God, that was below the belt. They are hitting us right down to our core. Pay attention to where something is landing in your body, because from that moment, at that sense, you can then respond from there. And I think that can be very, very beneficial. Like you were saying, Carol Ann, that you come back with something that someone will say, oh, how did you know? Well, they're speaking to you directly from their sense where that is. If they're feeling unsafe and they make a comment that's below the belt, it's because they're unsafe. You're connecting to their unsafety, which is their root chakra or that area below there. So it's really useful to start to just, when someone says something, listen to it. Let it come in. Feel yourself and think yourself as this great big quantum field of energy, and thinking about it's coming in inside you and it's going to every cell. And then think that every cell will do something with that information and it will bring it out. So that's where we talked about where I said that we've got this innate drive. The innate drive is always reliant on what's coming in to come back out. So if we can think of it like that, then the idea of in communication with someone is really thinking about, we have to receive first in order to be able to give. We have to receive for ourselves and feel good in ourselves in order so that we can give to others. Because if we're not feeling good here, we're going to be in saboteur, right? We're going to judge. We're going to hear from the point of the judge. And something that Shazad said, which was really interesting for me, which was looking at what was one of the saboteurs of the hyperachiever. Maybe people will have this. How many times do we think when we have somebody come in and say, I mean, I often used to think, my partner doesn't really help me. Here I've asked him to do this on my website and this on my website and this. He doesn't want to help me. But actually, that's a judge. That's the judge judging him. And it was really interesting to hear it from that point, because sometimes we think it's just I judge. But when we even say those little comments like they're not doing this, is still judging. So just being aware of what we do like that is I think is crucial to shifting in a relationship, right?
Absolutely. And that reminds me of someone that I met in hospital, another patient. And because things weren't working out for her, she kept saying, they don't care. They don't care. And I said, well, they do care. What's happening? This is what's happened. It doesn't mean they don't care. It's what you're putting on. And so I talked to her around that. So yes, it is that judgment that you immediately put on, but it creates that barrier. Because by saying that, then there's an animosity suddenly brought into the space, which doesn't matter what they do. She was running, nobody cares about me. And so that's how everything showed up for her. So yeah, it is recognizing how you're judging. And I popped something down. I think it was when something Nomsa was saying, we were saying it was something that our Queen used to say: never explain, never complain. Yeah, I think it was Nomsa you were saying, don't explain, or you just be quiet. But I thought, yeah, she used to say never explain and never complain. And that's why it's just very, and I thought, how peaceful. I didn't realize that. It wasn't all of the things sort of came out about her life and that. And I really found it quite fascinating. But yeah, so something said, wait till the end so you can get all of the message. And that's something that's one of the things around the power of language is timing. Is one aspect, one key thing, a component of it is timing. And it's timing as to when you deliver your message, because if somebody's stressed out and they're busy or and you're trying to then talk to them, that's not going to land. So it's waiting until they're in a receptive mood, they're calm and able to hear what you want to say. But it demonstrates that consideration, well, have they finished talking? And that was lovely. Nomsa had finished talking, but you thought she hadn't quite. But it's acknowledging it and being able to have that conversation that allows someone then to feel heard and go, oh, well, they were listening to me. And so again, yeah, it's all about timing and listening and waiting and going, okay. And something I found people that are really think very quickly tend to jump in, because I'm quite slow thinking. I'm a lot quicker than I was. And that's why I used to get really frustrated, because especially my sister would just jump in, and she still does it to an extent, and I'm now able to say, hang on a second, and come in. But something she said once, she said, but I thought you'd finished. I said, no, I was just pausing. I'm just thinking. I just need some thinking time. And so it is having that awareness of, if you are someone who can think much more quickly, has that person really finished, or are they pausing? So it's again feeling into it and giving them that time. And that is certainly something that I know neurodiverse people and autistic people are that they take time to think and to respond. And Paul Dennison, who is the founder of educational kinesiology, Brain Gym, he's dyslexic, and I mean, that's so improved over the years. But when I first met him, it was quite painful to listen to him, because literally his words would come out really slowly with huge pauses, and you'd think he'd finished, and then he'd come out with something, but everything he said, it was a gem to listen to, and so you got used to just, okay, waiting. So again, it's timing. Know when someone has finished, or even if you're not sure, ask, or but having that awareness helps to again, it shows you're respecting them. Again, it brings you closer together. You can feel that bond happening. They feel respected, they feel heard, because you've given them that time. So again, there's all these things that are having an interplay. So
what is the Queen saying, Carol Ann? Never explain.
Never explain, never complain.
Never complain.
Yeah.
Got that.
She lived by that motto.
I think I love this motto.
Well, I think there's something really important, is wait to be asked to explain. If you're going to explain something, wait to be asked, because if we're giving us an explanation, people may not be ready to hear it anyway, right? But if they say, hey, I really want to know what you mean by that, then we can explain, right? I think don't offer it without without it being asked for. I think that's a really good learning for any kind of language lesson, or life in general, because I've learned I like giving so much information, and people, the eyes are getting glossy and going, oh my God, I think, and as I watch and I think, oh, I think I've talked too much here. Move back. But so I love that. But never complain. I think it's about doing a good ask, a powerful ask, isn't it? Rather than not complaining. How could we rephrase that? I think, because I think people should be able to complain, but they should be able to do it in a way that's different from the way we think about complaining, from a judge role. How do we complain from a sage role? That'd be interesting. Namsa?
Yeah, I like her saying, I think what she says is, when you're speaking to somebody and they judge you, don't complain, don't tell them what they have done, and leave them to work out. And also never explain. I think that's what I've been doing my whole life. Sometimes I let people judge me and I move on. I never explain. And sometimes they'll come back and say, oh, I didn't know you can do that. Where did you learn that? I'm like, but you've never asked me. Like I grew up with my mom and with my dad, and I used to visit my mom. My mom, she lives in a different city. So when I go and visit, I'll do what I do with my dad. Like sports and music and stuff with my grandparents. When I go and visit my mom, I will just do what I do. My mom will know what I'm doing anyway. So with my mom's family wouldn't know what I'm doing. So I will not talk about anything. I will not explain. I will say anything. So I let them think that I was the thickest person in the world. I was the dumbest person in the world. Yeah, so they wouldn't know what I'm doing. So,
Mm.
and now that I do what I do, and they all come up and say, "You've never told us this is who you are." And I was like, "But you've never asked. If you have asked," because for me, when I meet people, I listen to people talking about themselves. But if there's no room for me to talk about myself, I don't force it. I just leave it and let that person, and I'll continue to keep asking questions because that's who I am, and then I move on. So every time I go, I'll just hang out with my uncles and my cousins. They'll see me, and I will not talk about this is who I am and stuff. So one day, I want to come to the UK now, and my uncle was like to my mom, "Why are you letting her go?" And my mom was like, "She was raised by two men." And Nomsa, she's not what you all think. Anyway, she's quite mature than you all think. You can go and ask her stepdad why we are letting her. He will tell you who his child is. So because they didn't know me, they were coming into a judging place like, "This is what we know about her." I was like, "No, you don't know me." Anyway, so I just move on. But I do all this, what Queenie says, never complain, never explain. For me, as long I leave somebody happy, I just do my thing. It's like my spouse, there's something that he is doing that what contributed when I was going through human blood sacrifices. So he did not ask the reason why. So they have all judged, and then I just left it like that, not explaining why these people wanted to do what they were doing. I just left it like that. And God even is telling me that if you are a child of God, sometimes there are things that I have helped them without them knowing. So sometimes I'm understanding that being a child of God, the fun thing about it is to help somebody not knowing and leave them like that. And that's what is exciting. But I like the Queen's thing when it says it explain, like never explain to people. And like being honest when it comes to language is establishing trust, even in difficult situation, and using transparent language to sponsor a sense of reliability. And also consistency is very, very important. People are more likely to trust someone who communicates openly and consistently. Like for me, in my journey of life, I find that people that truly interested in what I do, it's like Unisa, he asked me to help him with his dating show. But what I did not realize, actually, the guy watches all my videos. Honest, yeah. He watches all my videos, so he knows me very, very, very well. Like when he says help me out, so he actually knew what he was talking about, and he knew what kind of a person that I am. Because when I say something, is like he will use my videos, what I have said before, like, as a reference. Even when he speaks to people, he will use that as a reference, that Nomsa, she's this. And because he wanted a woman, a wife, I was like, "I got to come to your house, honey. Just because I know you, it does not mean that I have to do favors. I do not do favors." He was like, "Oh no, we're good."
Bless him.
Yeah, he was like, "We're good." He was looking for a good woman to go out, and I was like, "I don't do those things, honey. You want my woman, you got to commit." So when he speaks to his team, is like, I know it means that he's interested, and with you guys as well. So like, I know Shireen. If I ask Shireen to help me out, I got to be really serious. I got to be prepared, because she honestly, she's like a really, really shooter at university. I got to be prepared. I got to take all my troubles out and get prepared. And Carol Anne, she's just somebody that does not like. She's like, take me as I am. This is what you see, and don't judge me. And what you say is what you get. Is either we have a relationship or we don't. And she has this room where whenever you have problems, you know where I am. I'm just here for you. I'm not going to judge you. We talk, and I'll advise you, and that's it. I'm here for you as a sister, as a mother, as a wife. So that's why when something happens to you guys, I get so disturbed, because it's that relationship where you get to know somebody really, really well without judging. But there are some teammates who goes to talk shows that are very, very judgmental. But because of me, I observe things and tell myself that, Nomsa, you are a child of God. What would God say if you were turning your back on this person? I'll say he'll tap me in the back and tell me you are not my child because you're judging people who are judging my children. So all those things are important. It's just, I think everything else with Carol Anne's topic, it comes down to love. When you truly, truly love yourself and you love people around you, you will want to listen to them. But if there is no love, that's when there is a struggle. Everything. And I'll just keep talking, guys. Let me hand it over to you.
And I love actually that you're not triggered the way you were by the anyone sort of their negative sort of comments about Ngozi talk shows, because in the beginning you were so triggered by it, and now there is that listening, that observing and going, okay, Lord, deal with this for me. Or I
think there was a confidence, like I think there was part of me that I wasn't confident. Like when you think you have confidence, but then your inner being, like that, it shows up when you're reacting to situation and say, oh no, there's part of you inside that needs work. So that's why I realized, because things change when I took Matthew Haas's confidence challenge. That's when I came to understand that no, there was part of me that I needed to work. Now it does not bother me. Even in the house, I'm so terrible. I will look at Martin when he speaks. I'm like, he's so judging me, and I'm just loving this.
And it's great because you learned from it.
Yeah.
And this is the power of really listening to somebody and not taking it on and going, okay, so what can I learn from this? Because it opened up the conversation, and things got sorted out through that.
You guys know it's 7 minutes past 2.
I know. I just looked at it.
I did not see the time.
We didn't start till I'm aware we're sort of doing the hour actually, rather than just sort of cutting it short. But we sort of don't think we started till about nearly 10 past, but around this time. So it's a lot we could say. And I think some of the other key things we were saying about it's more than words is we said about timing. There's also tone and body language, and something you touched on, Shireen, that you notice somebody's eyes glazing over. It's noticing their body language, and it's being aware of your body language as well. Are you sort of open or are you closed? You've got your arms folded and things like this, and it can actually reveal the true message. So be aware of.
That's why a telephone conversation can be better than writing a damn text, right?
Yes.
Because text is one of the worst ways. Even email, as nice as you may be, depending on what's going on for the other person, if their saboteur is in the way, doesn't matter how kind you are.
It goes out and they come back and you sort of think, oh my God, where have you gone with that? That's not what I meant. And it gets very, so being able to speak to somebody
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
because there's a tone of your voice as
Exactly.
well that
So
comes
there's that
through.
intention, isn't it? That
Yes.
intention of the
Yeah.
tone and the willingness, and there's and that softness, and that yeah, this is so important. It is so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
When we get most of miscommunication is through written language, strangely enough, the way we write to people.
Yeah.
But actually,
Yeah.
we need to talk.
Mm.
We need to talk more
Yeah. Yeah.
with each other. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the
Absolutely.
current generation don't want to do that. They would prefer to be texting and prefer to be
Yeah.
so that, because there's something happening, I think, there's a fear of what's expected of them on some level. That, you know,
Yeah. I always make sure my children know that I have no expectations. And sometimes I feel that they don't, like my daughter once said, she said, when I'm with you, I know I can be myself. If I don't want to, if I don't feel like cleaning the room that day, I know I don't have to because my mom accepts me for who I am. But when I go to my dad, I know if I don't clean my room, he will kick me out. And I looked at him, I was like, that's how you feel? And she was like, that's the truth, mommy. You know, my dad, she was like, yeah, that's the truth. You know, my dad likes things to be done in a certain way. He has these expectations. But with you, I know that you love me. So you teach me the right way. But at the same time, if I don't do it, you don't tell me off or you don't make me feel that I have to, you leave me to be. So those are the things that I am aware. She was like, I looked at her and I was like, I walked away and I was like, sometimes we think our children they don't see us what we do, but they actually do. She's actually telling me my character, who I am. And I am that's is meant to be my secret. The person that I am within. Honestly, I love my children and also people around me. I never ever try to make somebody be something that I always explain, but that explaining, I have to let that person decide because the expectations of what we expect of people, I've realized that we're different. People do things different. Like my daughter, she won't clean her room today. If you nag her, she won't clean the room. But if you don't, she'll say, Mommy, come into my bedroom. And there you go. She's cleaned her room. But if you nag her, it's like you're telling her to do the opposite. So
minority responder. Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it? So we all do things on our own and love to do it, but it is interesting. And I think what I heard there was the language of you. So how you are in the world is the language of you, right?
Yeah.
I'm just bringing a whole new spin on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was
Beautiful.
really what came. This is, as I walk, I show you what my language is.
Yeah.
You get to learn, you get to learn and communicate with this language. That's me. It's really an interesting way of maybe thinking about it.
Again, that's body language. It's how you move, how you hold your body, and that in itself it speaks volumes, you know.
Yeah, it's a language.
Totally. So there's so much more around this. So there is, if you can harness that, and what we really touched on here is how it builds stronger relationships. Is that was being able to harness the power of language. So really understand what it is, and that it actually builds stronger relationships. It helps to strengthen rather than weaken and push away. And I just like to leave people with, it's not what you say, but how you say it that can make all the difference. So, is there something you'd like to leave them with, Shireen?
I think what I really want them to do is to just recognize that words have space around them. There's more space than there are the words. So sit in the space and wait for the words to find their way inside you so that then you find the right words to give back. Well,
lovely.
Yeah, I love that. To me, words are very, very powerful. Even when we want our destiny to change, is what we say is what is gonna impact our tomorrow. So it's very, very, very important to think before we say something to the other person, because that may change that person's life for worse forever. So words are so important, guys. Really, really, really important. And also, like I've realized, like when I pray a prayer all the time, and that prayer, if it's a prayer of miracle, that's when I will hear Satan putting his voice to say, is they trying to change me to go to a different one? But I'm like, no, this is the prayer that I need right now. So if I go on with the prayer for 3 months and that prayer is a positive one, you want me to twist my head and wanting me to think I need to move on. I'm like, no, I'm staying here. So it's very, very important, guys. The words are so powerful. Really, really powerful. And when you say to somebody you love them, or when you say whatever you say to them, that's why, like some people, they say, when do I tell somebody that I love them? That is, to me, if it's real, it's got to be real. There is no time scale. But if it's not real, don't say it. Live with grace, everyone. Please, if you're watching us from YouTube, subscribe to our channel. If you're watching us from Facebook or LinkedIn, share the videos as well. And God bless everyone. Go to the website www.hseia.coach and sign up for coaching or for dating. Have you guys finished now, or do you have anything to say?
No, I think we